Right Side Nation, what's going on? It's Mike Hanley here with RightSideNews.com. It is Tuesday, September the 25th, and this video is on one of our favorites. Let me tell you, one of our favorites out of Missouri, the Senator Claire McCaskill, the Rascal, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about good old Clary and what she's had going on out of the state of Missouri. She's a swamp creature. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's all about politics as usual for good old Claire McCaskill. I mean, I'm going to give you plenty of reasons here on why I'm calling her a rascal, okay? And hey, I mean, you may not necessarily agree with everything, but let me tell you, she is a swamp creature. She's entrenched in the DC swamp. She's been hiding out for quite some time, and this is our opportunity to go ahead, get out. Missouri, we need to go ahead and get out and vote. We need to get out and vote. We saw that massive rally that Trump had in Springfield, I think about a week ago, this past Friday. And he's just out there on the campaign trail supporting Josh Hawley. And we need to get the voters out. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and provide you the information that I think is necessary to give a little bit of background on the rascal herself. Good old Clary. I tell ya. So, this is a tweet here that McCaskill went ahead and put out on Judge Brett Kavanaugh. And it basically states that he has bias out on campaign donations that put him outside of the mainstream of this nation. Kavanaugh had wrote, I heard very few people say that limits on contributions to candidates are unconstitutional, although Kavanaugh, for one, tends to think those limits have some constitutional problems. So basically, he's saying that it's hard to limit the amount of contributions to a political candidate or campaign. So this right here is just screaming projection. Do we not remember how much money that Hillary Clinton brought in during her campaign? I mean, Hillary Clinton brought in about $1 billion, and she laundered money from foreign governments who essentially were buying access to the United States government before she even became president of the United States. And much of this was done through her campaign and through the Clinton Foundation. So the reality of the situation is Claire McCaskill is basically saying that she's worried about Kavanaugh allowing this to happen when this is exactly what Hillary Clinton had been doing for quite some time. So, I mean, right? Surprise, surprise. No one's surprised here that the Democrats are accusing somebody else of what they're guilty of. I mean, that's just typical. That's the Democratic playbook. That's the Democrat playbook, excuse me. Furthermore, she says Kavanaugh will give free rein to anonymous donors and foreign governments. I mean, that's Hillary Clinton right there. She took in $1 billion, and they're going to spend the money to interfere and influence our elections with so-called issue ads. I don't know. I mean, this to me is just absolute nonsense. I mean, this has already happened. This has been happening, and this is what the Clintons are guilty of. It's just basic. It's basic projection, the playbook of the Democrats, and so we're just going to go ahead and sit here and call them out from Politico, but basically talks about Claire McCaskill. So she used a private plane on her campaign trail. So if you look at this next article here, it shows a tweet, very excited to hit the road in the next week in this meaning her in her campaign or in her bus, her tour bus essentially. And it's called Veterans for Claire. So McCaskill, apparently she was supposed to go around the state of Missouri, be in um, this tour bus, I guess, of some sort to go out and get support drummed up from the Veterans for Claire movement. I mean, I don't know what type of veteran is really in support of her policies because, like I said, she's just a deep state phony. And so she essentially she got caught flying in her private jet. So Claire McCaskill took action to hide travel on private jet from public. So essentially, what she did is, I believe it was in 2011, she had got in trouble for, I think, spending money on a private jet. And I think I believe this at one point was, illegal what she was doing, or it was shady to say the least. And then now you have her again going out saying that she's going to have a tour for veterans, and then she gets caught using a private plane to fly around the state of Missouri. I mean, look, there's one thing. It's one thing if you're like in the state of Texas or if you're in the state of like California or Alaska, one of these massive states. We have to jump around, get around places quickly. And look, I get it. I mean, if you're going to fly in a plane, you're going to fly in a plane. Maybe a private jet isn't the way to do it. Um, However, she's in the state of Missouri. I mean, from like one corner to the other, at the furthest, I think is going to be like maybe 6 hours if you go from the boot heel of Missouri all the way up to north of Kansas City. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from the state of Missouri. And Claire McCaskill, I mean, Claire, come on. Can't you just stay on a bus just like a normal person? And this is exactly like what Hillary Clinton did. I mean, she claimed to be, oh, I'm just like the average American. She goes around, supposed to be going to these sites like in Iowa, in the Midwest, Nebraska, Wisconsin, so on and so forth. And she is so far removed from what these Americans have to deal with on a daily basis to make ends meet, to pay for their kids, pay their mortgage, pay for their kids' schooling, perhaps save in their retirements and their 401ks, etc. And so, you have McCaskill, just like Hillary Clinton. She's like a mini Hillary. That's exactly it just came to mind. She's like a mini Hillary Clinton, and it's not going to get any better, folks. I mean, I don't think she's been egregious in terms of subverting the law as much as Hillary Clinton has. Because let me tell you, she's the worst I think perhaps that there's ever been. But you got Claire, who's little Hillary, coming around flying in jets, lying to people, telling it's just people are sick of it. We want authenticity. We want people that are going to come out here and understand where people are coming from, understand what people have to do on a daily basis to get by, work jobs that are not always easy to pay the bills. Okay. So that's really what I wanted to go ahead and point out. I also have an article here from your very own here, rightsidenews.com. Gotta love it. So Claire McCaskill's Russian dozer. This is an article back in June of 2017. So of course, this is your typical, say one thing and have done another from the Democrats. So here is the tweet from 2013, right? It's off to a meeting with a Russian ambassador. Oh my God, could you believe could you believe if a Republican congressman or congresswoman went ahead and said this? Upset about the arbitrary, cruel decision to end all U.S. adoption, even those in process. And then 4 years later, I've been in the Armed Services Committee for 10 years. No call or meeting with Russian ambassador ever. Ambassadors call members of Foreign Relations Committee. So, I mean, and this just shows it right here. People are calling out Claire McCaskill. So this is your typical, oh, I've never done it, I've never done it. And then she goes ahead and does it. And so, people, we're not this stupid. We're just not this stupid. People are sick of the nonsense, okay? We want people that are going to go into office, say what they're going to do, and follow through with it. Promises made, promises kept. That's what Trump is ran on, and that's exactly what he does. So, aside from just Claire McCaskill just BSing the American people, trying to pull a little wool over their eyes as if we're not smart enough to figure this out. I mean, does she not really realize that we've got 70 million deplorables that are following all of the moves of the Democrats? And the reason we're following this is because we are spreading the truth, okay? And this is the movement. People like to talk about, oh, this is the Great Awakening. Like the Democrats are starting to try to use that. No, the Great Awakening has happened, and then we're continuing the MAGA movement. And we're making America great again, and then we're going to keep America great by voting in this midterm, and we're going to vote, and we're also going to vote in 2020, and Trump will be president. So I wanted to go ahead and just flip over to a few things in terms of Claire McCaskill's voting record. So this is the voting record. This is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It's obviously the tax cuts that were passed by the Trump administration, historic tax cuts. So she voted against it. And this site is pretty cool. And I'll go ahead and share this site with you all. But it's called votesmart.org, and it kind of gives a record of everyone's voting history. So you can go back. Of course, you can always go on congress.gov and look up in totality the voting history of all of the congressional representatives and senators. But I just think this is also a nice little. This is just a nice little website that I use just to give me a little bit more information and background. So she voted against it. The yay votes 224, nay votes 189. And Trump always talks about this. So they repealed the individual mandate, and that's what a big part of this bill was. So it repeals the tax penalty under the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, for failing to have health insurance beginning in 2019. And many people had considered that statute in that law to be unconstitutional. I mean, just think about it. You're paying the government if you don't have health insurance. So that in and of itself is highly questionable. And then this kind of just breaks down a few things. I mean, it increases the child tax credit to $2,000 per child, 1,400 of which would be fully refundable. Authorizes a $500 non-refundable credit to each non-child dependent or child without a valid Social Security number. There's a lot of information in this bill, and I'll go ahead and put this link into the description. It reduces the corporate tax rate from 35 to 20%, which is huge. I mean, look, I understand the corporations should pay taxes, but 35%, that makes us one of the highest tax nations in the world. So, these are just some of the information. So she voted against that. Okay, she voted against the tax cuts and the Jobs Act. She voted against Neil Gorsuch to be an associate of the Supreme Court. We know that. She's going to vote against Judge Kavanaugh. We already showed you that. Here's another good one. And This is stop illegal re-entry into the United States, right? I mean, this is pretty basic. She voted no against that. The highlight, it authorizes an increase in penalties for undocumented immigrants who re-enter the United States who have already been deported. So it makes it a stronger charge against those who re-enter the United States after they have already been deported. Specifies the Secretary of Homeland Security and may imprison an undocumented immigrant that was found to have crossed into the United States after being deported once before for a period of up to 10 years. I mean, that's pretty harsh. Anyhow, but we need that. Those are the laws that we need so people don't come here illegally. If they know, oh shit, if I go to the United States, I'll go to jail for 10 years potentially, they won't come here. It's that simple. I mean, these people, they might not be the smartest. They may be really smart. They may not be smart, but either way, they hear that, they won't be coming in. Okay, let me tell you. All right, the Federal Reserve Transparency Act of 2015. I really like this one. This is the one that I really liked. She voted against it. Surprise, surprise. Yay votes 51, nay votes 42. All right, the highlights. It requires the Comptroller General to complete an audit of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System and the Federal Reserve Bank within 12 months of the enactment date of the bill. It also requires the Comptroller General to submit a report of his findings and conclusions with respect to the audit to the members of Congress. And who else would put this bill together? You gotta love it. Rand Paul. Gotta love Rand. Sometimes, okay? He had it tough during the debates, right? I mean, Trump went after him pretty hard. Well, run after him pretty hard, but let me tell you, he's got some good bills. He writes some pretty solid legislation. So she voted against the Federal Reserve Transparency Act. And let me tell you, we, the people of the United States, are getting absolutely hosed on this deal. The people are getting just killed by the Federal Reserve. Okay, the Federal Reserve is spending more money than God knows what to do with, and essentially just stealing from us and for our future generations. And really, we have no way of controlling that. We're at $21 trillion. I mean, 21 trillion. Can you imagine how much money that is? And let's not forget, Barack Obama added $10 trillion to the national debt. 10 trillion. So this whole time, well, the Obama economy was great, blah, blah, blah. Well, he spent $10 trillion to prop it up. How the hell? Yeah, of course it did well. And in the process, he propped it up in a guise, and he's ultimately could bankrupt the country. Oh, and this thanks Obama for the 4.2 GDP. Oh, yeah, well, thanks for doubling our national debt in a matter of 8 years, spending more money than every single president combined previously, all of the other presidents. So from 44, Barack Obama, down to 0. He spent more money than all of the other 43. Okay? So that was important. We got another law that I wanted to show you, Kate's Law, which is a really good law. Kate Steinle, okay? This, I'm going to flip back over. Kate Steinle, an absolutely beautiful young lady on the pier in San Francisco, gets shot by an illegal alien who had been deported previously five times. Count it, 5 times. This person had come to the United States, was sent back, and came back 5 separate times. So they proposed Kate's Law, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Just go ahead and throw it up here. 3 or more misdemeanors or a felony shall be fined, imprisoned up to 10 years, or both. Okay? A felony for which an alien was sentenced to not less than 30 months in prison shall be fined, imprisoned up to 15 years. A felony for which an alien was sentenced to not less than 60 months shall be fined, imprisoned up to 20 years. Murder, rape, kidnapping, or a felony offense relating to espionage and slavery or terrorism, or of 3 or more felonies of any kind shall be imprisoned up to 25 years, or both. It It provides that an illegal alien who is excluded, deported, removed, or denied admissions, or who has departed the United States while under the outstanding order of exclusion, deportation, or removal, and who subsequently crosses or attempts to cross the border into the United States shall be fined, imprisoned not more than 2 years, or both. So, I mean, look, essentially what it's doing is it's making it it's making the ramifications and the punishments stronger for people who are re-entering the United States after having been previously deported. And I don't see what's wrong with this. Clearly, our laws aren't strong enough, right? Or people would be staying the hell out of our country. Now, if they want to come here legally. We're all good with it. But Kate's Law, I thought that was a beautiful thing. Next bill, McCaskill votes no on proposed a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. It's the Hatch bill. I mean, I love this. It prohibits the federal government from spending more money than it receives for any fiscal year. Prohibits the federal government from exceeding 18% of gross domestic product (GDP), which is a beautiful thing. If we're spending more than 18% of what we're bringing in, that is trouble, folks. It defines federal revenue spending as excluding funds derived from borrowing, defines federal spending as excluding debt payments. All right? So, this is in the exempt, a declaration of war against the nation. I'll provide these links. But these are common sense bills that are going to prevent our country from dipping further and further into debt. And as I stated on the one before, it's the Federal Reserve Transparency Act. Then you have essentially the Fiscal Responsibility Act. It's the Hatch bill. She declines that. So all McCaskill, the rascal, she is a rascal. There's no other way I can say it. McCaskill, the rascal, all she wants to do is sit up there in Washington, D.C., spend your money. She doesn't give two shits about how you're doing. I mean, look, all she wants to do is fly around in a private jet that she's probably being paid for in some way or another by the people of this country in the first place. And then she's just going to take more of it, feed that tax money to the lobbyists and the special interests that pad her pockets. And it's just this nice little family that she has up there in Washington, D.C. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to go in the state of Missouri. We're going to go vote for we're going to go vote for Josh Howell. We're going to vote out McCaskill, the rascal. Ship her out of town. We've had enough. Essentially, no mas, senor. So I just wanted to just show you two last things. I'm not going to play the video for you, but how she handled the Ferguson riots, in my personal opinion, was an utter disaster. And all she talked about was militarization of our police force, okay? Well, why the hell do you think we have a militarization of the police force? Yeah, you wonder, right? Okay, let me show you why. Look at these pictures. Look at these pictures. I mean, this is absolutely insane, okay? Ferguson is in a bad way. And we couldn't allow the city of St. Louis to be torn to pieces because our lack of leadership and the Soros-funded groups were being flown in from all over the country to essentially to stir up mayhem. That's exactly what he wants to do. He wants to sow seeds of division. George Soros, who is a Nazi sympathizer, who wants to divide and destroy the United States of America, is one of the sole goals of his lifetime. And he is one of the richest people that's out there, and he has the power and the money to do that. This guy needs to go to jail, and I can almost guarantee you, and this is personal opinion, I can almost guarantee you Claire McCaskill, in one way or another, is buddies with George Soros, and I can almost guarantee you that she is taking some of his money. And When George Soros is giving you money, you're doing something for him, okay? The guy is evil. The guy is no good. That's why, my friends, go out and vote Josh Hawley for Senator of Missouri. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, my name is Mike Hanley with RightSideNews.com. Don't be left, be right.